Hi everybody, I'm Patty Marty with Baby Lock.
And I'm Mike Johns with Baby Lock.
Yeah, and we are super excited today to be here to introduce our newest top-of-the-line sewing and embroidery machine.
This is amazing, right? I mean, we've got it sitting here in front of us, and we have to be honest, we haven't had a lot of time playing with this yet because that's how new it is, right? But we are really crazy excited about all the features that are in here and everything that we get with this brand new machine.
Right.
So let's just get right into it. What do you think?
Well, and you guys have probably seen sneak peeks.
Yeah.
You know, on our teaser campaign. So you guys now all know that our new top-of-the-line machine, first off, is called the Radiance.
Yeah.
Right? So
I love that name too.
I love it too.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of these great new features that are built into the Radiance.
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, I think just by looking at the machine itself,
it's huge.
It's huge, right? This is awesome. So we have a brand new, larger size embroidery field.
Yep.
So our largest hoop now, and if you've been with Baby Lock for any amount of time, you know our hoop size is actually the embroiderable field.
Right.
So our new hoop size is going to be 11 5/8 inches by 18 1/4.
Right. Say that 10 times.
Yeah, that's a lot, right? I'm a big guy. I could almost step through this.
Yes.
I mean, that's insane, right?
Yeah.
So what I love though is that not only did we get a new hoop, we have a new hooping system that's going to help make sure that your hoop stays in place, doesn't pop out. And so you want to talk a little bit about what that is?
So when you go to hoop your new hoop, at the very top here, you're actually going to slide it in, and then that's going to kind of latch at the top a little bit and hold the two hoop pieces of your hoop together. And then you're going to kind of press down the sides to help secure it in. And then you have a latch at the bottom and at the top. Yeah. So again, it's going to kind of balance out the tension of your fabric when it's in the hoop.
Right. So if you were with us with our Solaris, you're already familiar with the new latch system because that's where we introduced it. But now we have that latch at the bottom and that top. Right. And we have that, it's kind of a hinge. Yeah. Right? It really is.
It just kind of slips in there and then it holds it in place so that you're not going to have that hoop popping out.
Right. Yeah. And I love that because it's like, it almost is like foolproof hooping.
Yeah.
Which I absolutely love. Now, the one thing you can't see from where you are is that because we have this brand new extra large hoop, we also have a hoop support table that's down in the back of the machine. That is removable if you don't want to have it in there. But the cool thing is, and I'll actually slide back here and pull this off. But this is the new support table. And what you'll notice is that it has 3 collapsible legs on this. So if you're not using it, flatten it out, easy storage, right? But the really cool thing is this is how it latches here. And if you notice, I've got kind of a grip down here. So this actually just slides and clicks in. And if I want to remove it, I just pull it out. Right. But you can actually leave this on all the time. Right,
and you can even use it with the extension table. So it'll work with the optional extension table as well. So one of the other things too, when we're talking about this large hoop size, we're talking about that support table, you may notice too that the embroidery arm on the carriage is a little bit larger, right? And that's made to accommodate this larger hoop. And you're gonna see that you're gonna get really quiet, great embroidery with this machine and with these large embroidery hoops.
As we get bigger, we gotta get beefier, right?
Yes, exactly.
So, I mean, that's there. The really cool thing too is that this, whenever you're seeing it start up, still does the XY alignment on it. So that thing you're already used to where you're never gonna have a misaligned hoop, still there. Yeah. So perfect every time you see it go and do this. Now let's talk a little bit about one of our favorite features that we have that we got introduced in the Solaris. Yeah. And that was the projector. Right. So when we first introduced the projector, it was 3 inches by 5 inches.
Yeah, which was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah. And you can move around your hoop and see every area, but you can only see it in that small little 3x5. Right. Well, we kind of made that a little bit bigger, right? Right. So now you're going to see that that actually has a measurement of 5 inches by 8 inches.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's additional capabilities with it too. So on the embroidery side, when you've used it, we've always done it for placement when we're on our layout screen, right? When we're ready to go embroider, we could use it to check our placement or kind of verify where our design's going to go. Now we're actually going to have the capability to use that projector more with the embroidery editing side of the machine. So it's going to work with our dual function stylus. So it's going to work with the stylus that we've had, if you're familiar with that from the Solaris. But it's going to give you the ability that on the bed of your machine, you're actually going to be able to do some common functions. So moving, sizing, rotate. You're going to have all that capability with the touch of the stylus on the bed of the machine.
Right. So you can actually literally set up your entire embroidery without ever looking at your screen. Yeah. Right. Yeah, which I love that. And it's really cool. And we're going to talk more about the projector as we move through this video because there's all these other new features that are coming in. But while we're talking about messing around with the projector itself.
You want to show them the new stylus?
We have a brand new stylus.
Yeah. And we love our little lifted lid. We still have that. We have our thread stand.
Vertical thread stand. stand. So if you're familiar with our thread stand, magnetized, won't go anywhere,
Right,
which
collapsible,
we love.
which you can store it away if you're not using it. But it's great for those larger cones of thread.
But this is our brand new dual-purpose stylus. So for those of you that were with us back when we did the Solaris Vision, right, which was the third upgrade to the Solaris family of machines, we actually introduced a second stylus. So you wound up with a dual-purpose stylus plus an additional stylus.
Correct.
Now what we've done is we've actually took those two stylus
and combined them.
together.
Yeah, which I think a lot of people are going to be super excited about.
Yeah.
So this part of the stylus here is going to use the same. You use this to function, to be able to talk to the projector, but the magic is on the other side. When we just remove this tip here, you're going to see that now you have that soft head stylus that you can touch on the screen and use as well. So while we're talking about that, we love the stylus, we love the dual function stylus, but there's also some new technology too when we're talking about how you can navigate the screen. So we've always recommended a wired mouse for our machines if you're able to use a mouse. Now we're telling everyone
you can use a wireless mouse now.
Use a wireless mouse.
This is a big step up, right? Because we've actually always had to kind of give up one of our USB ports to be able to use that wired mouse. Now you don't have to do that. Now you can use a regular wireless mice, just like you would on your computer or what have you. Doesn't even have to be one of the ones that has the little USB junction. It can just be regular Bluetooth or what have you. And you'll be able to connect that to your machine. And if you guys have ever taken a class with Pat or I, you know that we're big fans of using a mouse whenever we're working, especially if we're working in IQ Designer because of precision. Right? So, and when you're using that mouse, there's one other little thing that kind of comes up. One thing you're going to notice on this machine is the user interface has completely had a makeover. Right? It is a huge step up. So now you're going to see that if we take our mouse and we hover our cursor over a particular thing, it's going to tell us what it does.
Right. And that's been something that people have been asking for quite a while, right? You know, we've had icon charts and we have our manuals and things like that, but you know, sometimes not knowing what an icon is, you want to be able to go and navigate over it and see what it is, and then now you have the ability to do that.
And let's be honest, there are so many functions on these machines that it's easy to forget what an icon does. So being able to hover over it, seeing exactly what that does, what the name of it is, even if you don't really still know what it does, it gives you the name to look it up in that manual and see exactly what it's going to do.
So speaking of icons, speaking of the new user interface, we're actually going to have the same 10.1 inch screen that you would have had on the Solaris. So the screen size is similar, but this one's going to have some enriched icons and some rich interfacing on the machine. So when we talk about the icons, most of the time we always, you know, you can figure out what delete is, you can figure out what memory is. You're going to see that some of these icons are going to look a little different from our other machines. So delete is now a trash can. So they're more universal icons.
Yeah, I think they're going to be more intuitive to some extent. And, you know, we've always said once you learn an icon in Baby Like Speak, that icon stays the same forever. This is going to be kind of the exception to the rule. Now, we want to make sure that you understand it's only a couple of icons that have changed. So most of your icons are still going to be the same icons that you're already familiar with. But like the delete is a great example. The garbage can, right? So when you delete something, you put it in the trash can as opposed.
But if you don't know now, hover over it and you'll find out what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you can always still use any kind of touch on the screen. So if you want to use your fingers to touch the screen and activate an icon, you can still do that. You can also use a wired mouse, or you can use that wireless mouse now, or the stylus.
Or the stylus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Well, while we have this open up here,
so we got some things to show you guys here too. So one of the things you're going to see up here that we want to show you is that we still have our 3-in-1 multi-purpose tool that you can use, and this is great for changing out your feet, you know, tightening your hoops. You can do
changing your needles.
Changing your needles. And so the big difference here, it's the same great tool, it's just got a different coloring. I love it because what's the first thing you lose in your sewing room?
Your screwdriver.
Your screwdriver. So now it's going to be a little bit easier for you to find. And you've got this nice handy tray area here on the top of the machine, and there's a spot for your stylus.
Yeah, your stylus actually has a home now.
Yeah, right? That's awesome.
So it still has a home in our beauty box, but now we can actually leave it up here because I think if people are like me and you, they use this as a staging area anyway.
This is storage.
So you usually have like 30 different rows full of thread up here and all. Yeah, so now you can have it all kind of done.
Yeah,
but now,
bobbin winder.
Yeah, let's talk about that bobbin winder. Okay. So we're still using class 15 bobbins.
Correct.
So we haven't changed anything there, but what we have done is now you're going to see that this is going to wind 10% more thread on the bobbin for a full bobbin than we've had on the Solaris,
Correct.
the Solaris 1, Solaris 2, Solaris Vision.
Correct.
So this is going to give us a fuller bobbin. And that's one thing we had a lot of people ask us about is, why is my bobbin not all the way full?
Right.
Now it will be.
Right.
So,
or you buy a pre-wound.
yeah.
The pre-wounds are a little bit fuller. This is going to help you to get a little closer to that point.
And we all know that that keeps us from having to change our bobbins a little more, less often.
And then I love still that we have this option here that you can change the fullness. So that carried over from the Solaris. So we've got that feature as well. So you can adjust that as well.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to close this because that's all for this right now.
Yes.
But like we said, we do have the vertical thread stand, right?
Yes.
So we're not going to miss out on that.
Yeah.
What about if I need help on the machine, whenever I'm working on the machine?
Well, we talked about the fact that now you can kind of hover and you can get those icons, but there are also still all those great help built into the machine. So all those help options are built into the machine. So you're going to have access to a lot of the videos. But one of the things that's changed is instead of using all the memory on the machine for videos, you're going to get QR codes.
Right.
And then the QR codes, you would just simply use your phone or your tablet, hover over that QR code with your camera, and it's going to take you out to that landing page to go watch that video.
Yeah, and I love that personally because, one, like you said, it frees up memory on my machine. So more memory, more fun, right? The other thing that it's going to do, too, is I'm one of those people that I like to work along with it. So having my computer to the side or my iPad or my tablet or whatever it is going to be, I can just scan that QR code and just watch it live while I'm actually doing it on the machine. I love that. I'm not tying up my screen. And not only are you going to have your how-to or your help videos out there, but your manual is going to be the same way. So if you want to see your manual, you can actually do the same thing. It's a QR code. You can pull that up. It also does have the manual as both an HTML and a PDF. So like for instance, with us, we have to know all of our machines. And a lot of times customers will ask us specifically a question about this machine or that machine. Instead of us having to have all of our manuals sitting there right in front of us, we have them downloaded on our smart device.
Yeah, and then you can search them.
And
then they're searchable PDFs.
Yeah. So absolutely love that. And it's going to be a lot of fun to be able to sit there and just kind of scroll through while you're sewing, while you're doing things. Lots of fun to have there. And you're never going to get lost, right? So if you're sewing like we do at 3 o'clock in the morning, you've got all your help right then and there.
Yeah. Some of the other questions we've been asked or we've been seeing questions about on social media and things like that about the Radiance also has to do with the size of it. We talked about the large hoop size. We talked about the large embroidery area. Now you've got 14.1 inches of throat space to be able to tackle all those embroidery and the sewing projects. But one of the things we get asked is it going to fit in my cabinet? Am I going to be able to take it to classes? So a lot of the questions go around the weight and the size of the machine. So the size of the machine is a little bit larger, maybe like 2-3 inches with the embroidery unit longer than the Solaris Vision was. But as far as weight, it's only about 1 pound heavier, and that's with the embroidery unit on it.
Yeah, if we actually take it down to the base model itself, taking the embroidery unit off, it weighs the exact same thing that the Solaris Vision does, which means it weighs the same thing as the Solaris 1 and Solaris 2. And it actually is the exact same size as the Solaris 1, 2, and Solaris Vision. So it's the embroidery unit that's adding that extra weight and that extra size. And if you look at the embroidery unit, kind of like Patty pointed out before, you'll notice beefier. And that's where that extra weight and then the length, of course, is because of the size of the unit.
So it still means you need your Wheaties if you're going to take it into your retailer for classes or for getting its annual cleaning and that sort of thing.
It's not something that you just pick up with one hand and throw in the back seat of the car, right? So, but it's we know that's a big concern for a lot of people, especially if you take classes and things like that. But just know that the base unit itself, same size, same weight. Add a couple of pounds, couple inches for the embroidery arm, and you're good.
Yeah, but I think you're going to feel it's worth it especially for that larger embroiderable feel.
Absolutely. Since we're talking about weight and size, things like that, let's talk really quick about those of our consumers that actually own the Koala studio that we have that fit the Solaris and that. Are they going to be able to use that particular cabinet with this machine? Right.
So this machine will fit in there for sewing. So you will be able to use that in your existing Koala cabinets. Like you said, that worked for the Solaris Vision. The one thing you will need to get is a new insert, right? So that would be something that you would want to have because this is a little different outline of a machine. So that's something that you would have to add. But the only other difference is that the embroidery unit, if you have a cabinet that has the embroidery unit storage area in the Koala, the only big difference is that unit, because it's a little longer and a little bigger, it's just going to stick out just a little bit. So we know most of you guys always have your embroidery unit on anyway, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal for me. It wouldn't be a game changer. I still love having that Koala cabinet and being able to kind of have everything set up for success.
And we can still sew with our embroidery unit on this machine. So that hasn't changed at all. So you know, if it bothers you that it's a little bit sticking out, just don't take it off.
Yeah,
leave it on the machine.
Continuously embroider.
Now, we talked a little bit about wireless features, talking about the mouse, talking about it. The wireless feature is still going to allow us to use the apps that we introduced with the Solaris. So you're still going to be able to use the IQ Intuition positioning app, and you're going to be able to use the IQ Intuition monitoring app. But there's a new thing that kind of comes in with the wireless feature here.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, and it kind of freaked us out the first time we heard it. You're going to have the ability to set up, you have to be connected wirelessly to be able to go out, and you're going to be able to have voice guidance as well. So it's kind of cool when you turn on the machine, it's going to tell you, hey, the embroidery unit's going to move.
The carriage of the embroidery unit will move. Keep your hands, etc. away from the carriage.
So it kind of freaks you out a little bit, but it's an option that you can turn on, and then it's something, again, if you don't need that, don't like that, you can also have the option to turn that off as well. But it's kind
of nice because we've always kind of jokingly said we have the nicest machines in the world, right? They always tell you when something's going to happen or something's going to move. Well, now not only is it going to tell you on the screen, but it's going to talk to you too.
And it's very pleasant. It's very pleasant.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
it's just, you know, just watch your hands. The embroidery unit's going to move out of the way.
But like you said, if you're trying to do, you know, secretive sewing at night, you don't want anybody to know, you can turn that voice guidance off in the settings. So that's there. So now that we've talked about our general settings and our general overall view, we should mention too, we do have the combination foot control up here.
Multifunction foot control. This is going to have one additional feature on it too that you're going to be able to add on the heel tap. It's going to be the reinforcement stitch. You're going to be able to add that function to either the heel tap or the side pedal. And then you get the same wonderful beauty box or accessory box that we talked about. Now this has been re-engineered just a little bit, but it's very similar to what we already saw with the Solaris. So you'll see that we have the 3 cabinet positions up there. What you're going to see is in a few minutes when we're talking about a new feature that we have on this, and we've kind of thought ahead, and that new feature now has a space in here that we knew. So we'll talk about that in just a second. So now that we've actually finished talking about everything here, and we've talked about the general characteristics of the machine, let's switch over to sewing. Okay.
All right. So why don't we go ahead and start with that little secret thing that we were kind of talking about that fits in the beauty box. And I think you have it, right?
I have it right here, and this is one of our favorite features. I think that's new on the machine. It's built-in stitch regulation on the sewing side, and it's called Stitch Sync. So with that, you're going to get a specific foot, right? A free motion foot that's going to be for stitch regulation. You're going to notice that it has the plug, much like the compact digital dual feed foot, much like some of our embroidery feet have had in the past. So it does plug into the machine, and that's what's going to tell the machine that you are in stitch regulation mode. Then you're going to get 3 different soles. So you're going to get a closed-toed sole, an open toe, and then you're also going to have an echo quilting sole. So you're going to get these 3 soles. They're really easy to switch out. There's a little lever here in the back that you just simply push forward, and that pops that out. And then when you want to reattach another one, you just slide it back in. So it's like very easy. Yeah, very like easy.
It pops it out or you stick it in, one or the other.
Right. And once it's plugged in, the machine knows that you're in stitch regulation mode. And you get a couple options as far as stitch types.
You do. So we have 3 different stitch modes and 2 different stitch types. So the stitch modes that we have are going to be what we call intermittent. Right? That's going to be very close to what we call our precision if you've got our long arms. You're also going to have a continuous stitch, and that's going to be like cruise, right? So if you're on long arms, that's cruise. Basically what that means is that if I stop moving, it's still going to stitch.
Right.
But if I am on the intermittent and I stop moving, it stops stitching. So you use it for different techniques and free motion quilting. Now the third one is going to be a new basting stitch.
Right.
And this is free motion basting. So we've had some built-in basting stitches in our machines, but this is actually going to allow us to go in and control our basting stitch by how fast or slow we move our actual fabric. So I love this. Now we can use 2 different stitch types with this. We can use a straight stitch for all 3 of them. And then for the intermittent and for the continuous we can use our zigzag stitch. Now, you can't use zigzag for basting, obvious reasons, right? But you can go ahead and do this. Now, we have had a chance to play with this, and it's beautiful. It works so smoothly and so well. So quiet.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very quiet. And so I think that'll be a really big feature for a lot of people because, you know, you love making quilt tops, you love piecing them, you know, while a lot of people like to just, you know, complete the whole process, now you can do that by having the stitch regulation built in. Yeah, because when we get over to embroidery, we're going to talk about the fact we still have other quilting techniques in here, but now by adding that stitch regulation, hey, you've got the whole kit and caboodle. Now, I will say one thing is that when you're doing
your stitch regulation and you're doing free motion quilting, having a nice big surface is a big plus there. So I'm going to reach underneath our little table of secrets down here.
There we go.
And this is our extension table. That is an optional purchase that you can go in
for the
with
Radiance.
New for the Radiance. It is not one that fits any other machine. It only fits the Radiance. But what's really nice about this is, of course, just like our other extension tables, it has the adjustable legs on here so you can make it go up or down. But when you put this on, you do not have to remove that support table that we talked about earlier.
So you get even more. You get even more surface. You get even more surface to work with your quilts.
Yeah, and this has got that beautiful kind of matted frosted surface on it, so it slides like butter. It's really fun. You do have to take the embroidery unit off for this, right?
Yeah.
But and then if you have a table that you can sink down into, of course, like you said, as long as you have the correct insert, you'll be able to use that as well.
Yeah.
So this is, like I said, an optional accessory. So if this is something that you're looking at, make sure you talk to your retailer about it because they can help you out with that.
Yeah. And on the stitch regulation too, just to point out, there is some of the projector and guideline that's kind of built into that process as well. So when you go into that mode, that's going to turn on as well because that's going to help you to make sure that your fabric is lined up. So it's pretty slick.
It won't let you actually stitch until your fabric is completely underneath the regulator, right? So it's actually that projected area actually tells you when you've got your fabric far enough in. So you can
and
get right out to the
there's
edge.
little guides too. There's 5 different modes of light that are also going to give you indications as well of if you're good to stitch, if you're not good to stitch, etc.
It actually has a red light built into it.
Yeah,
so it's got red lights and green lights, and depending on what the red light or the green light is doing, it tells you what you're doing at the time.
Now all I need to do is actually perfect my free motion
skills,
quilting. That's the problem. I can get my stitches now all the same size, but now I got to be able to actually make a feather.
See, my pre-motion skills is called Pro Stitcher.
Yeah,
I hit the button and it goes.
Exactly.
But I will get better at it.
We will get better. Exactly.
All right, so we've talked about that stitch regulator that we have this, and this does, like I said, have a space inside of our beauty box that we can put
that's what's so nice.
So your digital dual feet and our stitch regulation foot, and once you get in there, you can close this up and then store it away, right? So out of sight, out of mind. And I like
because I lose these things if they don't have a home. So it's good that they have a home,
especially if you have more than one machine, which we do.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So let's talk about. We talked a little bit how the projector is tied in with a stitch sync, but there's also a couple new features with the projector, the guideline markers, all built into the machine as well. And one of those is called Buttonhole Preview.
Yeah.
So it's pretty slick. It's when you go into the buttonholes, now you're going to have a projector option that's going to show you some different tools as far as how far you want to distance your buttonholes apart. It's going to give you some markings right there on your fabric that's going to help you to line your buttonholes up.
It does. And what's really nice about it, it does alignment both vertically and horizontally.
Yeah.
So if you're a garment maker, right? Or even if you're just a crafter that does a lot of buttonhole type things, you can go in now and use that button projector to go in and kind of show you how things are going to space up. And what's really nice is that we've moved the location of the projector. It's still on the side here, but because it's on the side, we've actually had to move it a little bit out toward the edge. So now when it projects, it actually projects both in front of the needle and behind the needle. So what we're looking at when we see this buttonhole preview is that it's showing us the buttonhole we're sewing now, the buttonhole that would be below that, as well as the buttonhole that's above that. So it really is going to help you to do that. So, if you've been a garment constructor for a while, you're used to the big accordion thing you pull out and you mark all your buttonholes. Now you're not going to have to do that.
And now you can use your prior buttonhole as a reference and kind of keep things all lined up. And if you're wondering too, thinking on the Solaris, the guideline marker it's always had 3 colors. Now we're up to 16 colors. So when you look at that buttonhole preview, you can really distinguish which line is your spacing, which one is your preview, which one's your distance from the edge of your fabric, and that sort of thing. So it's pretty nice too that now we've got a rainbow of colors when we talk about our projector and our guideline markers. And
we need to say that 16 color selection is throughout the projector. So no matter where we are, sewing, embroidery, IQ, you've got all 16.
Right.
So if you've ever had that difficulty of being able to see your projector down on a certain color fabric, things like that, I promise you now there's a color that will show. And we've played with that a lot too, and it actually is really cool to play around with.
Yeah, because there's light colors and there's bright colors.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Nice.
Now, when we're talking about the projected guidelines, we should talk about the fact that we've improved that just as far as sewing as well.
Exactly.
Not just in our buttonholes, but in just our regular sewing. So we've always had a main guideline and a sub guideline. And then in that sub guideline, we've had all kind of unique little things, right? We've had angles, we've had a grid.
Which I love the grid. Yeah.
Love the grid.
Just having another line was was a huge thing.
But we've even beefed that up.
I know. We keep improving it. So now we have 2 additional sublines. One I would say almost looks like a little target.
Yeah, it reminds me of the positioning sticker.
Right, a little crosshair with some circles that you can adjust the distance. The other one we have now is kind of another somewhat of a grid, more like some crosshairs that again you can use, and you can adjust your distances and things like that are going to make it, you know, be really usable for all different types of sewing.
Yeah, I think one of the nice things about both of the new sublines is that not only are they going to give us that vertical alignment reference, they actually give us both vertical and horizontal.
Yeah.
So as you're going through now, whereas we only had the angles really to do that to begin with, now you're going to have the angles plus these 2 new ones.
Yeah.
Speaking of angles, right? We always had a very limited amount of angles that are in there. We've beefed that up big time. We've added, I think it is 8 new angles that are in there.
I think there's 5 additional. I think we might have
a total. So we have 8 total?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got everything from 15 degrees, 30 degrees, 45 degrees, 90 degrees.
It even goes like
negative.
Beyond that, yeah.
It does. It goes negative. So if you've ever wondered why I would use those, right? One of the things that we found that we love to use that for is Y seam piecing, things like that. But it's also going to give you not only a straight line, but it's going to give you a secondary line that goes off to a specific angle.
Yeah.
So if you're piecing things that are like triangle piecing or octagonal piecing, something like that, you can use those guidelines for that.
Yeah.
Now, over on the main side, those 16 colors still apply as well. So we do have that.
And I think one of the things that people are going to be really excited about, because we now have that larger projected area, right? We have the 5x8. One of the things that, some people struggled with was the fact that the guideline marker was a little shorter, especially from somebody who came from a Destiny over to a Solaris. Well, now you're going to see you've got a really long guideline marker. And even if you turn your projector on as well and say you've got a straight stitch on, that even extends beyond where your projected guideline marker is.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, remember, we're going to get the projected image both in front of the needle and behind it.
Which is so cool.
It is, because if you've ever had trouble steering, right, it's always good. We always tell people look at the front of your foot when you're steering, but some people really like to look as it comes out to see how it's lining up. And now, because that projected guideline is going to be behind the foot as well, it'll give you that advantage.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
So one of the features that we introduced with the Solaris, and that has been very popular, is couching. Now, we've had couching on our sewing side of the machines for a very long time, and we've actually made that to where it's just more friendly, it's more easier to do, get great results, those kinds of things. And when we introduced it first in the Solaris family, we actually did it with the digital dual feed foot.
Correct.
And we used a couching sole. Right. Well, the other part to that is that you actually have to have a guide that attaches to the side of the machine here. So on our Solaris family, we actually have 2 guides. We have an embroidery couching guide and we have a sewing couching guide.
Right, because some of those were added as part of upgrades and things like that to the original machine. So those came as separate parts.
But now we're making that easier because, again, why do I need to keep up with another part, right? So now your embroidery couching and your sewing couching guide is one and the same. It hooks on just like it did for the previous machine, except for, if you kind of look at the top up here, we actually would have normally put the couching guide into this little hole that's over on the side of the machine. Now it actually has specifically 2 pegs that are in here. And if you turn over the guide there, you'll see those 2 pegs match. So when we put this in, it actually sits in a little bit further than what it would on the previous models of machines. So now we're not having to keep up with 2 different guides. We're just going to keep up with the one.
Love that.
You still are going to get the digital dual feed. It's going to be the newer compact digital dual feed, which I love. This is probably my favorite of all of them because this has actually done what I need to do and went on a diet. So it's a little bit thinner and a little bit lighter. But the biggest thing is that it has an angle back here in the back.
Right, so you have a little bit.
As the fabric comes out, it doesn't catch.
Not as much bunch it up. And the other thing too, with this, you're going to get 2 soles. So you're going to get that couching sole, like we talked about for the sewing couching, and then you're also going to get the standard sole. Right.
And then you are going to get still that Y foot.
Yeah,
and
my
this
favorite.
Y foot, it's such a good foot. But whenever you do this, this is that foot that does require an initial alignment. But once you do the alignment, it's pretty good for a long while. And then you may have to tweak it later on. But
so that's going to be for your embroidery couching.
This is embroidery couching, right? And then for sewing, this is the couching sole that is on our digital dual feed foot. So this is what you get for your couching, both embroidery and so.
And that's just so much fun. You can add texture and so much dimension and things like that to your project. So in addition to those great features that you have, there are still a ton of stitches built in here on the utility side and on the character and decorative stitch side. So we're going to have over 1,600 stitches. And so some of the ones that we've grown to love and we were introduced on other machines are carried over here. So you're going to find that you're going to still have things like your 20 tapering stitches. We love playing with those. You're also going to have those 3 hand stitch stitches, and then you're going to have, again, a plethora of utility and character and decorative stitches.
Yeah, and if you guys aren't familiar with the hand look stitches, those are very unique because they kind of emulate our Sashiko machine, which the Sashiko machine is something that's very specific to baby lock. Nobody else makes it. But you use monofilament in your upper thread, and then you use 50 weight down in your bobbin thread area, and it kind of simulates that Sashiko stitch. It looks really amazing. Cool stitch. Lots of fun to play with.
Yeah, and then in addition to that, you're going to see that we have all the wonderful editing features that you guys have grown to love on Baby Lock, or if you're new to Baby Lock, you're going to love them. Things like our pivot, our fabric sensor system, just all of the amazing editing tools you have when you go into the sewing side.
And we should also mention here that whenever we turn on our projector when we're in the sewing side, we have a lot of functionality with the actual dual purpose stylus on the bed of the machine. So we can actually do things like adjust our stitch length, do our left-right position. We could do
stitch width.
We could even go in and preview stitches on the bed of the machine, which is awesome because if you're a quilter, or if you're just a crafter that likes to go in and do stuff, being able to see that stitch projected down before you actually commit to it, game changer.
And now with a larger projector, it's even be more impactful.
It's wonderful. But yeah, so lots of new stuff coming out of the sewing side. But now that we've talked about that, let's get to where you and I kind of thrive, and that's going to be the embroidery side of the machine. All right, so in the embroidery side, we've already talked about the fact that we have this beautiful new large size hoop.
Correct.
So that's that 11 5/8 by 18 1/4. But we should talk about the fact that's not the only hoop you get, right? So you're also going to get the 4x4, you're going to get the 5x7, and then you're going to get 10 5/8 by 10 5/8. Now, that is a great assortment of hoops, right? But we want to make sure everybody knows one particular thing, right? If you own other hoops that you've bought for other machines, guess what? They all work.
Right. So those magnetic hoops that you already have, those can transfer over to the Radiance. Any of the other hoops that you may have from a previous machine, those will work. And just in the same way, not only are your hoops going to also work, but any of those other accessories that you've purchased.
Including your feet.
Right. So if you are somebody who already owns a Baby Lock machine and you're trading that in for the Radiance, just remember that those things can transfer over to this machine.
Right. When you trade in, just trade in the stuff that came with the machine, not other stuff.
And if you're not sure, just ask your retailer.
Yeah. Absolutely. Now, one of the things people love whenever we go over to embroidery is the fact that you get a lot of designs built into the machine right off the bat. So we all know we collect outside designs as well, right? We all have enough that if we stitch one a day, we'd live forever, right?
Yeah.
But in the machine itself, you're going to see that we have a ton of designs that are in here, and we've added 26 new exclusive designs. That's not the total. That's 26 new exclusive designs.
Right.
And then we still have all of those other beautiful categories that we had before.
Right. And one of the things that's nice too is that in our exclusive design collections, we've always had those categorized in things like floral or vintage and different categories. So now in the category that we typically call our common designs, we have those designs also categorized. So you're going to see that you have some fun new designs in there. And again, they're all by categories instead of like when they're added by an upgrade and things like that. So within that group, you're going to see that you're going to get some really fun new designs. There's some applique, there's some three-dimensional designs, and then there's even some crochet designs that can give you, again, another textured type of embroidery that you haven't seen on other machines.
Just know if you do the crochet designs, it eats threads. So it does take a lot of thread to do the crochet designs, but they're really cool when you stitch them out. So give them a try and see how well you like them. Now, one thing I do want to kind of discuss really quick is that we're standing in front of our standard Radiance edition machine, right? But we actually do have a limited edition machine as well. And we've seen some people on social media kind of go, what's the difference? What's the thing? So really quick, let's just say that when you're looking at the standard, that's what we've been talking about this whole time. If you go to the limited edition, what you're going to notice is it actually has a whole nother collection of designs that were curated by the two of us. So you get actually 20 designs that were actually, we picked out, we put in, had a lot of fun with. And then on top of that, you're going to see some cosmetic changes of the machine itself. Now, for those of you who have been eagle-eyed and have really been paying attention, if you look down at our beauty box, you're going to see that it's actually labeled as limited edition. So that's one difference you're going to see. And you're also going to notice the top of the machine is different.
That same limited edition is going to be carried over to the lid as well. So that indicates that it's limited edition. And probably the biggest difference is going to be that main screen.
So the screen, instead of being this beautiful peachy orange color that you see here, it's actually going to be black and silver.
Yeah, it's
with
very
gold
classy
accents.
looking with the limited edition.
Yeah, and then there's also some differences in the original purchase bundles. So if you are purchasing the machine right at the beginning of the launch, things like that, we always have bundles with our machines. And there's some differences between the bundles for the limited edition machine and the standard machine. So, but both of them are going to have all of the same features. So everything that we've talked about here is going to be included on both the limited edition and the standard edition machine. But we want to make sure we pointed that out.
Absolutely, because I might see it and go, what's going on?
Now, before we kind of get sidetracked, we had started talking about the designs that are in the machine. So one of the things that's really nice about this, we lost nothing, right? So for those of you who have been with us since Solaris, or even before that, we're going to see a lot of those same categories of designs still on the machine here. So we've mentioned the crochet already. We've mentioned applique.
We've had couching. We've got couching and things like that. And one of the things that you fell in love with was the long stitch designs. And we've added 8 new designs to that category. And there's a bunch of really cute ones.
There are, and there some of them are actually even a little bit larger than what we saw when we first initially introduced them. So if you're not familiar with long stitching, they kind of break all of the rules of embroidery, which that's one of the reasons I really loved them, because, you know, if you've ever digitized or anything like that, you've always heard you can't do stitches longer than this, you can't do that. Well, guess what? We did. We put it into your machine. So those are all in there and you can stitch those out. Now, those we do want to say are not things that you'd want to stitch on something you're going to wear, wash, that kind of stuff, because they won't stand up to it. But they're great for like decorative applications, things like that.
You've even stitched them out on some wood and put it on top of a box, and it looks super cool.
All those categories, you'll see those. And again, like you mentioned, now everything is categorized. So when you're going looking for stuff, it's so much easier to navigate. And that's one of the things I love about the new UI, is that it is so user-friendly. It is sure. And we're already known for being user-friendly. So to say that it's even more so, that's a big step up.
So let's talk about 2 of the other new designs that were added. When we introduced the Solaris, we added a category of designs that were the large Connect designs. And that was one where it takes advantage of a feature that's been on our machines since way back to the Elissimo. And so it's a feature that allows you to use the camera technology built into the machine, which the Radiance has, and it does pattern connectivity with that camera. So it takes designs and connects them together. So what this feature does is it actually takes a large design that's much larger than your biggest hoop, and it splits it into thirds, and then the camera and the projector help you to line it all up.
We kind of call it like unlimited embroidery, right? Because we've got a huge hoop. What if I want bigger? Right? So that's where that pattern connectivity comes in. And like you said, we've had that feature for a very long time now. I mean, we've introduced it several intonations machines in the past, but now with the Solaris, we've got it to where it's all automated and it's actually in there. So you'll kind of look over at my left-hand shoulder here. You'll see this is one of the 2 new designs that is in the Pattern Connect or large Pattern Connect category inside of the Radiance. So this is split into thirds, and each section stitches, and then it uses a combination of our positioning stickers and the camera, which we love, to actually make sure that it repositions the next section. And what's even cooler about this is as it stitches, for those of you who have stitched a lot when they embroider, you know that we have to deal with this thing to where when you stitch, sometimes it'll actually shrink the design up just a little bit, right? We kind of call it pull compensation, that kind of thing. So this is smart enough that it actually measures that pull compensation, and then when it goes to do the next piece, it actually resizes it to match.
It's awesome.
And then this is actually the other newer design.
I love this. I love it. It looks like William Morris.
Yeah, it does, right?
Very Art Deco.
Really, really pretty. And I've stitched it. You'll notice both of these are stitched on kind of unusual materials. This is kind of a velour. And then back in the back, that's actually sunbrella canvas. So fun things to do. And then what we did here is we just stretched it on top of existing canvas.
Yeah.
And these are great ways to kind of show off something that you think is just really pretty.
Yeah.
Is just
I
to kind of
stitched that one out and put it on a bench, so it looks really cool. So again, you can use it in your home decor. We've even seen people stitch these designs out on the back of jean jackets in the middle of table runners, things like that. So that's really nice too, because also included with the manual is that there are printout templates that you can use, print out, so that if you are putting the designs in the middle of something and not just stitching it arbitrary on some fabric, you actually can help with placement.
Yeah, now we do get questions sometimes about, is this able to let me take other designs and bring into this and let it do the automatic thing for us? It's not. You would use pattern connectivity, and pattern connectivity does the same thing. It just does it more of a manual process as opposed to an automated process.
Right, this is self-driven.
This is all driven. Yeah, you just follow the screen, right? Yeah. So really fun to do. I will warn, they take time.
They do take time. They do take time, but they're worth it.
They are. They're absolutely stunning and beautiful. So one of the things that both you and I love to do a lot is work with fonts. And you know, there are people who collect fonts. We both collect fonts, and there's a lot of resources for fonts, but if we've got great fonts built into our machine, that makes things even easier. And we definitely have great fonts built into this machine, right?
I agree. And with the Radiance, we have 5 new fonts, 8 total, 5 new regular fonts, and then we have 3 micro fonts. And those are great fonts to use if you're doing quilt labels, something small, maybe some initials on a cuff of a sleeve. So those are really practical fonts that you can have. So love that we have all those new fonts. And again, you and I are pretty particular about the fonts that are added. And these ones will tell you they're cute ones, you know, so they're going to be ones that you're going to use quite a bit. So this is going to give us a
total of 39 fonts total. Now we should say too that we've retired a couple of fonts. So we had 3 fonts that were on previous machines that you're not going to see on this machine. But again, we've added in those other 5 and the 3 micros. If you're not familiar with the term micro fonts, that just means the font is a 1/4 inch in height or smaller. So really, really great for logos, labels, that kind of stuff.
And they always continue to improve the editing features on our fonts, our built-in fonts. So one of the things that's really new now is that we have font preview.
I love this. Yeah.
So if you select a font, you can click a little box and actually get a preview. So you see all of the letters and characters that go along with that font style. So when you're just auditioning a font, you can kind of see like, oh, is that letter going to look right, you know, for what you're trying to work on. So you've got that option. And then the other thing, which you and I both love, I love doing monogram, I love doing personalization, is now we can really increase the size.
They're going to go up to 200 millimeters or 4 inches.
Crazy.
It's insane, right? And the nice thing about it is the way that we resize our fonts now, we can actually resize prior to actually even selecting the font. So we select the font, we go in, we tell it what size we want that font to be, and then as we enter the font, it will be that size.
That's cool.
The other thing you're going to notice too is we've always had the system where we had large, medium, and small. And when we go in and do the initial font, you're not going to see that any longer. You're actually just going to see the size.
Yeah.
So we're kind of skipping the LMS, which in a way actually takes a step out of the process, which I think is great, right? If we can do something easier and quicker, why not?
Yeah.
So
and then those editing tools, you're still going to be able to array, resize, you know, play around, change your fonts. If you don't like the font you choose, go back in and choose a different font, make corrections. So it's all really pretty slick what's built into the machine.
Yeah, and all of the text edit features live on one screen.
Yeah.
So it's really simple. Like if you do go in and you misspell something, you don't have to undo everything. You just go in and change the one thing.
I love that.
Now, one other thing is we did get another brand new font, but this one's going to live in our large decorative fonts.
Right.
And you did this sample here using you got it as
upside
a W.
down. That's a W, now it's an M.
But this is actually a whole alphabet collection, and this is going to live in the large decorative font. So basically, this is not treated as a font.
Right. Just like an embroidery design.
It's treated as an embroidery design. So you bring them in one by one, and you can do all of your embroidery editing features to it.
And I resized this, just so you guys know, I resized this into like an 8-inch sized letter because I wanted it large for the pillow. But the other thing to note too is this doesn't come as an applique, but it does come with that decorative fill on the inside.
Right.
I went in and played with IQ Designer a little bit, jazzed it up by adding some candle wicking stitches in it, turned it into an applique. So it's kind of taking that font and elevating it even more. So,
and I think anybody that knows us know that you and I do that, right? We're going to take what's in the machine and do something more with it, right?
It's our job.
This one is beautiful. I love this one. It's probably now become my favorite large decorative font. So lots of fun to play with there and kind of go in and play with all those fonts and get some really personalized results in your embroidery. next, let's kind of go back to the projector, right?
Okay.
We've talked about the projector both on just our general terms, talking about the fact that we now have a new display area. We've talked about the fact that we've added a lot of features in the projector. That's going to carry over to embroidery as well, right?
Yeah, like we mentioned, now you're going to have the option to turn the projector on the embroidery editing screen.
Right.
So that's different. Before, you had to get all the way through your embroidery editing and then go into layout, and then that's when you could use it for placement. So now what you're going to have is the ability in embroidery editing to, again, do some of those common editing features like sizing, rotating, moving your design, all by using that dual function stylus and using what's projected onto the bed of the machine.
Right. And honestly, being able to see what's projected down onto the actual material that I'm going to stitch is a huge plus, right? We've always been able to use our camera, which we love the camera, right? We can take scans with the camera. We'll talk more about the camera in a minute. But now that I can actually see it on the actual material, there's no guesswork, right? You know what you're going to get, and it's precise, it's there, it's easy, it's quick.
It's large now.
It's large, But while we're talking about the camera, let's not forget that we have that camera in there, right?
Right.
So not only do we have the projector for placement, and, we love to brag about our perfect placement, and we love to talk about how easy it is to get perfect placement. So you've got now the projector. You've got the camera, which will let us go in and scan. We also have the camera with our positioning sticker.
Which is where a lot of people started off using the camera feature. You put a sticker down, it locates it, it helps place your design. So no need to be a perfect hooper.
That's right. And the other thing that you can do, though, is if you're someone who is what I like to call old school, I consider myself old school to some extent. If you're someone who likes to use templates, right? You could always put a template down and then use your projector or your camera to line up with the actual template. Which I love.
I love
it. So there's really no excuse for not having it exactly where you want it.
And then again, like we were saying with the large Connect designs, that camera is great for using pattern connectivity with the camera, and that allows you to create larger designs. And when we talk about those like larger designs or kind of endless embroidery that we like to talk about, that really leads us into those quilting designs that are built into the machine as well. So with the Solaris, we introduced a quilting category that allowed you to have sashes around your quilts that go up to a king size quilt. And then with the last Solaris Vision, we added our edge to edge quilting, which is self-guided. Again, it's kind of like the large Connect. The machine's going to guide you through. You put your measurements in, it takes the design that you selected and it breaks it into different parts, and then it guides you through using the projector to help you to get everything lined up and edge to edge and quilt your entire quilt.
Yeah, it does the quilt math for you, which, that's the worst part of doing quilting is the quilt math. But and the thing is that when we first introduced those, with the borders or the sashing, we've added more versions of that every time we've done an upgrade. All the way from Solaris 1, we've done Upgrade Kit 1, 2, and 3. Those added more features there to where now we have square or rectangular sashing that's single color, square rectangular that is double color, and then we have the hexagon, which is all there. So if you do the 60-degree ruler quilts, you can now do those. Well, we're going to add a couple of more borders in there. So we've got 5 more borders.
So up to 25.
Up to 25. And then when we did edge to edge, when we first introduced it, we had 10 designs that were in there. Now, we talk about 10 designs, but there's really more than 10 because with each one of those, there's so many different options that you can do. There's more
you can
like
mirror,
40
you
that
can
are in
flip
there.
them.
So we're going to add 5 more of those as well.
That's awesome.
Right. So now you're going to have more choices that are in there. But, we always get asked, is that the only way that I can do edge to edge on my machine? No, not at all. You've heard us talk about pattern connectivity. Pattern connectivity works with any edge to edge design.
So if you like to purchase them, you can you just have to be the one connecting them together using the pattern connectivity. To have that automated process and to have the auto splitting, it's going to be done through those 15 designs in the edge to edge.
Absolutely. But the cool thing is that's not the only way we can quilt, right? So in our embroidery side of the machine, we have a little bit of IQ. Now we haven't talked about IQ yet, but one of the things that we introduced prior was that we could do decorative fills, and in the embroidery side of the machine, not having to go into IQ. Well, we still have that, and you're going to see that that's just another option to do your quilting. So now that you've got stitch regulation, you've got sashing, you've got edge to edge, or you've got quilting. Literally, you can take any quilt and make it from beginning to end here on this machine. You have no excuse not to finish all of those UFOs that are in your collection. So even binding, digital dual feed foot, right?
Exactly.
You can do it all.
Exactly. All right. So let's talk about another really big, huge feature that's on the Radiance. Now, Mike is a palette person, right? He teaches his palette, loves palette, digitizes, creates stuff. So in the Radiance, one of the cool things that we've added is a feature called Picture Play.
Yeah, and it's just a game changer. So for those of you who are, shall we say, software shy or computer adverse, right? You don't want to go out and spend a lot of time learning software, learning how to do things on the computer. One of the things that we've heard is that they always wish that they could do the photo stitch that's in Palette on your machines without having to learn Palette. Well, guess what? You can now, right?
Right.
So we have a feature called Picture Play, and what this is going to allow you to do is you're going to be able to bring in a photograph or an image through a USB. Now that has to be through a USB, it can't be brought in wirelessly, but once you bring that in, you're going to be able to go into Picture Play, and it's going to ask you a couple of questions, and you can choose from 10 built-in styles plus the original Palette photo stitch style plus a custom style.
Right.
So
Right.
12 different styles total.
It's crazy.
It's amazing. And all you have to do is literally follow the directions on the screen.
Right.
And it's pretty quick.
Right. And I know a lot of people, when we introduced the ability to be able to send images from the IQ Positioning app over to IQ Designer, a lot of people wanted to bring pictures over and they wanted them to look like the photo stitch that's in Palette software, but it kind of came out more Andy Warhol looking.
Yeah.
So this is going to give you that true photo stitch look.
It does. And the nice thing about it is you're actually in control of it. So you can decide how many color changes you want in each one of those designs. You can change the density of that design. So if you want more stitches, you can increase the density.
You can
decrease
remove the background,
remove
leave the background in.
You can put a frame around it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of possibilities for this. And honestly, it's one of those things that as you do it the first time, you're going to sit there and go, it's going to take me how long to stitch? And you stitch it out and you're like, this is amazing.
Right.
We
You wanna
actually,
show them a sample?
Yeah, we actually have one here. And if you've been watching any of our teaser videos for the Radiance, you might recognize this. This is actually our model that was in our little teaser video. And this is actually the photo stitch that was done using the photo stitch built into the machine. Now, there are some limitations to what we're going to do. We don't recommend anything larger than a 9.5 by 9.5.
Right.
I did push it just a little bit on this one because you'll notice that this is in our 10 by 10 magnetic frame. So I made it just a little bit bigger. And honestly, I was okay with that, but we really recommend that it stays around 9.5 by 9.5 or smaller. And obviously, the quality of the image that you bring in is going to have a huge impact on the output.
Right. And some of the different options you have, like this is going to be just a traditional.
This is the traditional palette
option. But you're going to see there's things like neon sign. There's Art Deco. So there's
Pop
some
art,
so there's some different spins on your designs, and we've played with those a little bit or seen a little bit of that, and it's really fun to see how those can really take an image and make it look totally different.
Oh,
so
absolutely. Yeah, and I really do encourage people, if this is something that you have any interest in, tough it out.
Yeah.
Stitch it, because I will tell you, it takes a long time to stitch. But the nice thing about this is you're not changing threads a lot, right? The photo that I just showed, the photo stitch, the picture play, I'm so used to calling it photo stitch. The picture play I just showed you had 21 colors in it.
Right.
But that's literally 21 color changes because it stitches the entire color before it moves to the next, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Right. So you can get as detailed or as undetailed as you'd like. Yeah. So I love this.
I think it turned out really cool.
Yeah, I love this. I think it's going to be something that people are really going to love playing around with. I agree. Great way to convert photos into memories that'll last forever. You can put these on wall hangings. You can put them on clothes. We've seen them put on the back of jackets.
They're so cool.
Pillows, you name it.
Yeah. It's going to be fun to see what everyone creates with it as we get to play with it a little bit more.
Yeah. And I will tell you, because we like to be honest, that took 12 hours to stitch. But
just Netflix.
It's beautiful, right?
You know, maybe an audiobook, something like that. That's what we always say, right?
Right.
Right. That's what you need your IQ monitoring app for. So you can just tell you when you need to go in and you need to switch your threads. So you can be doing something else.
Lots of bobbins on hand.
Yeah.
Make sure you have a lot of bobbins on hand.
Lots of thread and lots of bobbins.
Yeah.
So, well, let's go ahead and switch gears, since we were kind of talking about how people like to use IQ Designer. IQ Designer is another very fun part of the machine. And this is going to be something that, again, is going to carry over to the Radiance. So you're going to have that ability to go into IQ Designer, create your own designs, bring in your own artwork, you know, have a lot of fun. And Mike and I love to play with IQ Designer, and we love to try to like push it with IQ Designer. So, you know, with the new IQ Designer version, some of the things that you're going to see is that there are 6 new fills that are going to be included into in the fill area. And so if you're not familiar with what those are basically the little background fills that we use a lot of times. They're kind of open airy fills, so people will use them to quilt or just to create all sorts of different
It's like
things.
what's inside of your letter there.
Yeah,
right?
inside of my letter. It kind of gives you that look and feel. So we use those a lot, and that's one of the big things. The other thing is that we're going to be introducing a new line type.
Yes, yeah. So a new line type that we haven't really had.
You're excited about this one.
I am, because it's a version that we've kind of had, but we weren't able to push it to the limit that I wanted. So one of the line types we've had since inception of IQ Designer is we've had what we called a zigzag stitch. Now that's not really ever been a true zigzag. It's been more of a column stitch or a satin stitch. And if you tried to spread it out to get a true zigzag, you never could really get it far enough out. Yeah, it was limited. Now you actually have a real zigzag stitch.
Yeah.
So now you're going to see us start to refer to the other one as a satin or a column stitch. And now you're going to have this new stitch that is a honest, true zigzag.
And that's going to be great for people who like to make a lot of appliques, because you can actually have your tack down stitch be a little bit more of a zigzag to help hold those fabrics together.
Especially like they're doing that primitive applique, things like that. Really, really fun to do.
Yeah.
So, but one of the other features, and we've been asked about this a lot, is whenever we introduced IQ Designer, we always had a running stitch, right? And our running stitch we use all the time, right? If we're making appliques, if we're doing our own designs, whatever the case may be, running stitch is very popular. Well, if you think back to prior intonations of IQ Designer, when you did a running stitch, it always stitched over itself twice. And that was something that everybody's like, how do I get it to stitch one time? Well, you could either trick out the machine and make it do it, so you're sitting there doing it, or just accept that it's going to go twice. Well, now you're going to have the option of actually turning off underlay on both the running stitch and the bean stitch or the triple stitch. And what that means is that you're going to wind up with a single run if you're using the running stitch with the underlay off, or with the bean stitch, you're going to wind up with just 3 passes, not the 4th.
Right.
So it's going to give you that idea that you can actually have a lighter stitch. Now, we do have to throw out that this is auto-digitizing to some extent, and your machine may not always stick to not having that underlay because it may have to get from one point to another. But in general, now you can turn those off, and by doing that, you're going to get more of a likelihood of getting that single run, which I love.
Right. And then just like we've had on the Solaris, this machine is still going to have the auto resume with IQ Designer. So if you're in the middle of creating something, power goes out, your cord comes unplugged, whatever the case may be, when the next time you go into IQ Designer, you're going to be able to go in and auto resume to that. So, you know, lots more to come on IQ Designer. I think it's going to be fun for us to get in there and play with it a little bit more and find all the nuances of it, you know, with the machine.
Now, we did introduce a new feature in IQ Designer with the Solaris, and that was that we could import our own custom line types, and we can import our own custom fill types, decorative fill types. And you're going to see that that continues on with the Radiance, that we can actually import those custom. So back in, what was it, March 2 years ago, I think,
gosh, it's crazy,
we actually introduced a new product called Design Suites. And Design Suites was our way of helping out the customer that doesn't have palette or doesn't want to learn palette, because in order to do the custom decorative fills or the custom motif stitches, you had to have palette. Right. So what we did was we kind of took it upon ourselves and we created them for you. And we've created a collection. So we have, we've just launched 4 new collections.
Right, with the launch of the Radiance, we're introducing 4 new celebrity collections.
Right.
And I have to give Mike a huge shout out for this, because you and Karen Parker, who's one of our Baby Lock educators, do the bulk of the creating of these. So you guys doing a phenomenal job of making these for all of you guys to use with your IQ Designer.
They're so much fun. But you're going to see that the 4 that we're introducing at Baby Lock Tech are going to be celebrity collections. So what we've done is we've reached out to some of our Baby Lock partners, Baby Lock ambassadors, Baby Lock event partners, and said, hey, would you like to work with us on this? They provide us the artwork, and then we take it from there.
Yeah, love it.
And what you're going to get is 20 decorative fills, 20 decorative motif stitches. So we actually have the first one here. This one is going to be,
That's Carly Porter.
Carly Porter's. All of hers are clamshells.
Yeah.
Which I love. So if you want to do some custom embroidery quilting and want to do clamshells, there's 20 different variations.
They're stunning.
Many of you guys know our dear, dear friend, Zandra Shaw. And she did a collection with us last year at Baby Lock Tech. So now this is going to be Zandra's 2nd collection. And these are adorable. They're little animals.
And I love that everybody's collection
is different.
It's their personality. It's their style. It's so much fun. So if you love Zandra's fabric, you love her designs, this is going to work really well. And it's all animals.
It's little animals, and they're so darling.
The
they're
flamingos
really cute.
are really, really cute.
The next one they have, this is a new ambassador that we have that works with us, our event partner named Gudrun. And Gudrun actually runs GE Designs, and I connected with Gudrun right off the bat because I used to live in Iceland, and Gudrun is from Iceland.
I know. It's pretty
cool. All of her designs are really awesome because they're all kind of Scandinavian inspired, which is really fun. And so again, 20 Scandinavian designs, 20 fills. And then the last one that we got here is one of our partners that we've had for a long time who we adore.
Evie.
And this is Evie Hawkins. So if you're familiar with Evie, you know her style is very sweet, very, very florally, cute little animals, teacups. She does little ladies that are just beautiful. And this is her collection. It's going to be her first collection with us. Yeah. So 20 that are going to sing to her. And a lot of hers actually coordinate with a lot of her embroidery designs.
Right, right.
So there you go.
And these are all going to be available starting in September of 2024. So you're going to find them available at your retailer or available through babylock.com as well.
Yeah. And then we actually did one other special collection.
Yeah.
And this is one that was kind of a passion project for us. And we kind of thought, okay, let's do something specific for the Radiance. So whether you're purchasing the Radiance, the regular Radiance, or you're purchasing the Radiance limited edition, this is going to be part of your bundle. And this is our Radiance collection. So this is a little bit different because what we've done here is not only are we giving you motifs and fills, we also gave you embroidery designs. Right. So the embroidery designs that you find in here have the coordinating fills and the coordinating motifs. Yeah. And if you see the beautiful dress that Linda Patini made for us, which is back here, you can actually see one of the designs here on the sleeve. And this was the dress that the little girl in our promo videos was wearing. And then over on the other side, you're going to see a quilt that Patty made for the same promo video. And the lantern with the butterfly, that also is one of the embroidery designs, as are the lanterns here. So everything you see on the lantern is from the Radiance collection.
And you can see that we're showing 8 of those 10 different fills. So you're going to see those different fills all stitched out. So they're very, very fun.
Yep. And the butterflies are actually part of the embroideries as well. Embroidery design as well. Yep. So this was actually, like we said, we included with both of the packages or bundles that come with the Radiance, whether it's a special, the limited edition or the regular one. And then this will eventually get to where we make it available for purchase later, but right now it's only available in the bundles itself.
Correct.
Yeah, and so make sure you check out our design suites. I think we counted it up right before this. I think we were at 14 collections that are available. So if you can dream it, we've probably got it as a collection.
And we've got a whole list of other ones that we're working on. Yeah. So
much fun.
Yeah. And I love that because those really allow somebody to expand IQ Designer and get really super creative with it.
And they're a jumping off point too. So for those of you who are my palette users, these actually work in palette as well, and you can take them in and learn how to do it and kind of adjust it and make it your own. So if you have a machine that doesn't have the custom import, because right now the only ones that have custom import would be the Radiance machines and the Solaris Vision. But if you have another machine and you have palette, you can actually use palette and still use those designs.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Patty, I'm in love with this machine.
I am too. We can't wait to play with it even more. We've been stitching out designs, making samples, getting ready for, for being able to showcase what this machine can do. So if you want to learn more about the Radiance, we encourage you to go out and visit your local Baby Lock retailer.
Absolutely.
Find out more about what's available through them.
Yeah, ask them for a test drive, right?
Yeah.
Let them see if you can come in and sit down and play with it. And then, of course, always check out our SOED online education videos. We'll have a lot of those coming out here in the near future, showing you how to do everything that we've talked about here. So if there was a technique maybe we touched on or a new feature that we touched on, we'll have that up there for you to view here soon. And then you can always follow us on our social media as well, because we actually do have quite a bit of interaction on that. So lots of different ways to learn more about what's out there and to kind of see what you can do with this amazing, amazing new machine.
So thanks for spending some time with us as we did a little exploration of the Radiance, and we look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Happy stitching.